International with Donna Friesen.
Good evening and thanks for joining us. Investigators are collecting evidence from the cargo ship that caused the catastrophic collapse of Baltimore's Francis Scott Key Bridge. The data recorder from that cargo ship, still stuck in the middle of the river, has now been recovered. At least 8 people were on that bridge and they were thrown into the water. 2 have been rescued, and late today authorities say 2 bodies have been recovered from the water. Crews had been searching for others who are presumed dead. The men from Mexico and Latin America were working overnight fixing potholes on the bridge. They would have had no warning before disaster struck. Though crew members on the ship did issue a mayday call that allowed officers a few precious minutes to close the bridge to traffic. Joel Senek is near that bridge collapse tonight. Joel.
Yeah, Donna, that tragic news coming just minutes ago here in Maryland. Officials confirming that they did pull this morning 2 bodies from the water, a 26-year-old and a 35-year-old. Those bodies trapped in a red pickup truck under around 25 feet of water, and they are now moving this from a search and recovery operation to a search and salvage operation, but that only comes after many hours of hard work. Faced with an underwater obstacle course, divers work below the water's surface as a search and rescue effort transitioned into a recovery operation.
They are in frigid conditions. They are down there in darkness where they can literally see about a foot in front of them. They are trying to navigate mangled metal.
The mission to recover the bodies of the construction workers presumed dead. Miguel Luna is one of them. An immigrant support group says he was from El Salvador, a father who had lived in Maryland for 19 years.
Pissed off.
Angelo Solero runs a Latino cultural organization in Baltimore.
You come to America, trying to raise your family, trying to reach the American dream, and you lose your life.
2 Mexican nationals, 2 people originally from Guatemala, and 1 Honduran are also confirmed to be among the dead. Solero says their loss will be felt by the entire community.
Those are human beings who are working on that bridge to keep that bridge going, and because of this tragedy, they lost their lives.
As the scope of the tragedy becomes clearer, questions remain over what led up to the collision and quick collapse. The vessel's voyage data recorder is now in the hands of investigators. It's like an airplane's black box and is being analyzed. Search crews had more items on their list when they boarded the ship Wednesday.
We will be looking for any sort of electronics, documentation. We will want to take pictures. We will want to look at the engine room of the vessel, the bridge.
Now, officials say they believe there are other vehicles still underwater, but they are encased in concrete and the debris that fell when the bridge collapsed. Donna, they say they've exhausted all efforts to find the remaining victims.
All right, Joel Senek near Baltimore tonight, thanks. About 5,000 transport trucks cross that bridge in Baltimore every day, and the port, one of America's biggest, is now closed indefinitely. There are 4,700 containers stuck on the ship that hit the bridge, 2 of which went overboard. Billions of dollars worth of goods will now have to be rerouted. And Gaviola is looking at the impact on the supply chain, including in Canada.
It's a huge economic impact for the country. This port is responsible for over 51 million tons of foreign cargo.
Before this tragedy struck Baltimore's port, it was the 9th busiest in the U.S., handling the highest volume of car and truck shipments. If you've purchased or are thinking of purchasing a high-end vehicle made in Europe or Asia, expect delays and less selection.
You might go to your dealer and you have less options and a higher price.
The head of Canada's Auto Parts Manufacturers Association says this disruption is comparable to, though shorter and more limited in scope than the microchip shortage during the pandemic years.
It's akin to one major ramp or intersection at on the 401 being closed. Yes, you can find your way home or you can find your way to work, but likely what will happen is it's going to clog all the other arteries.
Vehicles and other shipments held up in and around Maryland will have to find their way through the ports of Halifax, Montreal, or even Vancouver. Other goods impacted may include coal, sugar, and farm equipment. The timing isn't good for farmers who depend on heavy equipment like tractors.
So unfortunately, we are seeing planting season approaching here in the United States, especially for corn that'll be going into the ground heavily in April.
Economically, the greatest impact will be on Maryland's locals.
For the families of those presumed lost, for the people of Baltimore who are going to be feeling this closure in day-to-day life, and for everyone affected by the port closure and its supply chain impacts, the President and the whole government will be here with you.
Maryland State Senate President Bill Ferguson says an emergency bill is being drafted to provide income replacement for affected workers. Though the bridge collapse isn't expected to have a major impact on international shipping, the worry is that the cumulative effect of this port shutdown, plus pressure from attacks by Houthi militants on the Red Sea and a drought in Panama that has snarled traffic in the Panama Canal, all add up. Ann Gaviola, Global News, Toronto.